Man's possibilities are very great. You cannot conceive even a shadow of what man is capable of attaining, but nothing can be attained in sleep. In the consciousness of a sleeping man, his illusions, his dreams are mixed with reality. He lives in a subjective world and he can never escape from it. And this is the reason why he can never make use of all the powers he possesses, and why he always lives in only a small part of himself. Today we're going into the heart of G.I. Gurdjieff's system, the fourth way, and specifically into what he taught about the soul. This is not abstract philosophy. According to Gurdjieff, the soul is not something you are born with. Ordinary human beings by default do not possess one. What most people call their self is a temporary, unstable collection of thoughts, memories, impulses, and sensations. When the physical body dies, that collection disperses. Consciousness evaporates. There is no automatic afterlife, no guaranteed heaven or hell, just dissolution. Gurdjieff is absolute on this point. Immortality is possible, but it is rare. Extremely rare. It is not given. It must be built. Here is where Gurdjieff differs from nearly every other metaphysical teacher. He is a radical materialist. There is no separate spiritual realm. Everything that exists is matter, differentiated only by density and rate of vibration. The soul, if it is ever formed, is made of actual physical substances of a very fine order. Substances so refined that ordinary science cannot detect them. These substances are collected and transformed inside the human organism over a lifetime of conscious effort. Gurdjieff calls these substances food. He does not mean only the food you eat. He means 3 categories of nourishment. Impressions. Everything that enters through the senses, sights, sounds, sensations, experiences. Most of this food is used simply to maintain the physical body and keep the machine running. But if a surplus is created and deliberately refined, those finer substances can begin to crystallize into something permanent. That crystallization is the beginning of a soul. Gurdjieff's starting point is simple and brutal. Ordinary human beings are asleep. What we call waking life is a form of hypnotic trance. We are mechanical. We react. We identify with every passing thought, emotion, and sensation. Because of this sleep, when the physical body dies, almost nothing of what we call ourselves continues. Consciousness disperses. There is no automatic immortality. P.D. Ouspensky, who studied under Gurdjieff for a decade and recorded the teaching most clearly in Search of the Miraculous, put it this way: man is not born with the finer bodies. They can only be artificially cultivated under the right internal and external conditions. Gurdjieff does not speak of the soul as one homogeneous thing. He describes a series of bodies that nest inside one another like Russian dolls. The astral body, the horse feelings and desires. The fourth body, the master, the permanent and indivisible I. Only the fourth body is fully and permanently immortal. The astral body can outlast the physical body for a time, but eventually decays. The mental body lasts longer still. Only the fully crystallized fourth body, what certain Eastern traditions call the diamond body or thunderbolt body, is indestructible. Most people possess only the first body in any real sense. The higher bodies exist merely as latent possibilities. They are not automatic. Gurdjieff is explicit. The claim that everyone has an astral body is, in his view, largely fantasy and self-hypnosis. A real astral body is expensive. It requires years of deliberate pressure, sacrifice, and inner friction. The same kind of sustained intensity that turns carbon into diamond. Gurdjieff spoke of a subtle substance he called hambledzoin, related to what older traditions called animal magnetism. He claimed he could concentrate and transmit this force. Students reported experiences of telepathy, heightened suggestibility, and an unmistakable presence that seemed to operate beyond ordinary psychological influence. Accounts from people who knew him, Ouspensky, Thomas de Hartmann, and others, describe moments when thoughts appeared to be received directly, or when Gurdjieff's presence produced states that felt outside normal waking consciousness. Whether these were genuine psychic phenomena or extremely refined psychological and physiological effects is secondary. What matters for the work is that the same inner efforts that produce higher bodies also produce a different quality of presence. Denser, more coherent, more intentional. The continuous effort to be present to oneself in the midst of ordinary life. Not thinking about being present, actually dividing attention so that one part of consciousness observes the rest. Without self-remembering, all impressions are taken mechanically and produce only more sleep. The deliberate struggle against the automatic yes of the machine. Every time the organism wants to express a negative emotion, identify with a thought, or follow a habitual reaction, the work requires a conscious no. This friction generates the finer substances needed for the higher bodies. Impressions are the highest form of food. Most people digest them at the lowest level. Through self-remembering and non-identification, impressions can be refined so that they nourish the higher centers and contribute to the crystallization of the astral and mental bodies. The process is alchemical. You accumulate the finer materials produced by the three foods and then transmute them through specific inner techniques. Self-remembering, the continuous effort to divide attention so that one part of consciousness remains aware of itself while the rest of the machine functions. Conscious labor and intentional suffering. The deliberate refusal of the automatic yes of the organism, the struggle against identification, negative emotion, and mechanical reaction. Every time you catch yourself about to express a mechanical impulse and you withhold it, a certain friction is generated. That friction refines the substances. Over years, if the work is intense and sustained enough, those substances crystallize. First, the astral body begins to form, then the mental body, and eventually the permanent I. Without this work, when the physical body dies, the latent materials simply disperse. There is nothing coherent enough to hold consciousness together. Gurdjieff never softens this. He states that practically no one attains it, including many who spend their entire lives attempting the work. The effort required is enormous. The conditions must be right both internally and externally. Most people will never create enough surplus of the necessary substances, and even fewer will subject those substances to the sustained pressure needed for crystallization. Yet the possibility remains open. A human being is not limited to the physical body. The higher bodies can be manufactured. A permanent center of gravity, a real I, can be formed. And once formed, that I is capable of resisting every external force, including the force of death itself. The entry is simple and almost impossible. At irregular moments throughout the day, stop and ask, am I here? Feel the body. Register the emotional tone. Observe the thoughts without being carried by them. Do this while walking, speaking, working, eating. That small act of self-remembering begins the accumulation. It is the first step in the long process of collecting the material from which a soul can be made. Gurdjieff repeatedly warned that higher powers, hypnotic influence, magnetic presence, even certain paranormal abilities are byproducts, not the aim. The aim is the creation of a permanent I that can stand independent of the physical body. Everything else is secondary. He claimed that in 1912 he took a personal oath to stop using hypnotism to further his aims, precisely because the automatic influence he possessed was so strong it risked becoming a substitute for real inner work in his students. Leonard Mlodinow's book, Subliminal: How Your Unconscious Mind Rules Your Behavior, shows, from the side of contemporary cognitive science, how much of what we experience as free choice is actually driven by automatic processes outside awareness. Gurdjieff was saying the same thing a century earlier, but with a practical method for intervening. The sleep he described is the dominance of the unconscious mechanical systems that modern research continues to map. Gurdjieff's system is a laboratory, not a belief. The only verification is the work itself, carried out over years, with honest observation of the results inside yourself. The possibilities of man are far greater than ordinary life ever reveals. But nothing real is free. Everything permanent must be paid for in conscious effort. That is the core of the fourth way.